I drink out of a Brita filter most times.
Oh, excuse me.
Actually, it would take me getting into that story, but honestly, what I was actually doing, I said get water. I was getting water to put in my humidifier.
Oh my, this guy, really? The bougiest podcaster ever, man.
Cannot play with him. Cannot win with him. Cannot coach with him. Can't do it.
You play to win the game.
I mean, listen, we're talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We're talking about practice.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Touchdown!
You are now locked in to the Clock Dodgers podcast.
Clock Dodgers Podcast.
You are tuned in, streaming, downloading, listening to episode number 129 of the Clock Dodgers podcast. I'm your host, Neil. With me is Adam, aka the other FF guy. In case the title wasn't clear enough or the description wasn't clear enough, this is a fantasy football episode of the podcast. Before we get into deep intellectual conversations, Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was mentioning to you before we got started here that I'm living in a sauna right now.
Yes.
As I mentioned before, I live in Chicago. I have an apartment, and I have baseboard heating that's controlled by the apartment complex. And they just kicked it on within like the last week here, and yeah, it's steamy. It's ridiculous.
That is hilarious. First of all, I don't even know what baseboard heating is. I'm assuming there's heat coming out of the floor. I don't know. We don't got that here.
I live in Florida. I don't even know what heating is.
Heat here is called the sun, and that's it. Like, we do nature things, you know? We let nature take its course. And so the sun heats us up, and we just live with it, man. But you got this shit coming through the floor, which seems kind of weird, but I guess normal in most places. I don't know. But you don't even control it. That's strange, man. I don't get that.
It's so uncomfortable. It's so terrible. Because, I mean, obviously, like, they don't want to get in trouble for it not being hot enough. So they just crank it up to the point where you're just like, you gotta just wear shorts. Like, you can't deal. It's ridiculous, though. I literally have, no joke, I have my AC running on low right now. It is 30 degrees outside, and I have to just to balance it out in here.
So weird, man. That is so strange. Yeah. From Florida, none of that makes sense to me, man. None of that makes sense. Well,
not to mention that on top of that, it just dries out the air to the point where you basically can't breathe, or you just wake up every morning with a sore throat. So yeah, I'm living that humidifier life right now.
You're really selling the area to me, man.
Oh, I know. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Gotta love the winters.
Can't understand why people come to Florida. It just makes no sense now. Can't make sense of it. I just got finished dumping some Halloween pumpkins, man. They were getting nasty out here. They were all...
Oh, so you'll take care of Halloween pumpkins, but not dead animals in your driveway.
I was just going to say, I actually grabbed the new trusty shovel that I purchased from the dead animal mystery that was in the driveway and used it. Since now I got this, thing I could just, use whenever I need to. I just pulled the shovel out, said, let me get rid of these pumpkins, man, and started using that for, like, a handyman. Like, let me get this shovel.
Oh, man, such a handyman using a shovel.
Yeah, man. I tossed those pumpkins, man. Them things were nasty and slumped over. It was disgusting. All these, like, fruit flies in them and stuff. Mother Nature takes her course quick, man. She don't fuck around at all.
Yeah, it does.
Damn, man. My pumpkins, I carved these things with all my skill. Had them things looking nice. And then 1 or 2 days outside, and they were like, man, they were just slumped over, man. It was sick.
Oh, man. Do you do, like, the intense shallow carving? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what that is. I don't go that far.
Oh, man.
I do just enough to impress my children.
Like, super well. She was real cool with that shit. She made some cool-ass pumpkins. I don't know. It's wild what you can do. And it's not even that hard, really. I mean, honestly, all you're doing is, like, shaving down more for more light or shaving less for less light. And that's how you get, the color differences. I'm a terrible artist, so I can't do it. But in theory, like, it's shockingly easy if you can draw well. Or you don't even have to draw well because you can get stencils. So, like, I don't know. It's really neat, though, if you ever, like, watch a YouTube video or something and learn how to do it. it's fun to give it a try because you can make some cool designs.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an artist either when it comes to like drawing and stuff, but I did just enough. I like found my way through it just enough to have my kids like, wow, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, cool.
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, man. But like, there's some people, if you're like completely art inclined, they got these stickers now you just slap on them. So I'm sure those are hot sellers. They're like eyeballs and mouths and stuff. And you just slap stick. I'm like, oh, that is such a cheat code.
Yeah,
that
that's so sad. I don't know. I just have like so many memories growing up as a kid, like sitting around and carving pumpkins with my siblings and my parents.
So
like,
in your single life, do you carve a pumpkin?
Fuck no. Are you kidding?
I just wonder if a pumpkin's sitting in that fucking hot ass room you're in right now.
No, man.
Saunaing it up.
Pumpkin carving is a family thing, at the very least a couple thing. Like,
Listen, your apartment right now would take care of your pumpkin just like Mother Nature took care of mine out here. Your shit would be slumped over right now in that weird ass temperature you got going on.
Oh yeah, I bought some bananas yesterday. They were green, now they're yellow.
That's crazy. So yeah, man, my pumpkins were, slumped out, caved out. I got rid of them. Speaking of caving in, the Panthers just got caved in themselves.
Oh, look at that transition.
Oh, nasty, right? I'm good with it. Sometimes it happens that way, man. Sometimes it comes together. And, honestly, when it comes together like that, you just got to jump on it before you lose it. You just got that moment. So.
Oh, man, yeah. Neil's over there jumping on two wheels. Look at him with that segue.
So, Thursday Night Football, we got to hit him with a reaction. Panthers, Steelers. Where do you want to start? There's, so many ways.
There's only one place to start.
No, there's so many ways to go with this.
Oh, yeah.
What's your one way? What's your one way? Tell me. One way street, Adam. Go ahead.
Let's name the running backs you would rather have in Dynasty than Christian McCaffrey.
None. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, there's obviously some. But I'm
kidding.
Curious, because for me, I think it's down to just two.
Gurley?
Yes.
And you're going to say... you could probably argue a couple guys. I don't know, but Kamara.
Yeah, those would be the two for me, and I think it's Christian McCaffrey at 3. I own him a bunch. I only own him in one Dynasty league, though, so I'm looking to acquire. But yeah, the Panthers just got demolished, and yet Christian McCaffrey still just has a gigantic game. Like, the way in which he's being utilized, he's playing like 100% of snaps. Like, even in this blowout, he's still on the field in the fourth quarter. It wasn't until the very last drive that they took him off the field. They're using him like crazy. Yeah,
14 carries, 77 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and then 5 receptions, 61 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. So Panthers scored 21 points. McCaffrey scored all of them. Just ridiculous. Obviously, it kind of, it hinders a bunch of other guys in the team that people want, stats from. But listen, if you're a guy with McCaffrey, you're happy as hell right now. I got him in a bunch of leagues, actually. So he's been kind of my rebound. I started off slow in some leagues, and he's helped me just, push through a lot of the negative records and trying to find, positive ground. But, yeah, man, he's been straight up killing it. And we're talking about him, and his team only scored 3 touchdowns. We're not even talking about the 52-point Steelers. Which you feel they are not the story. You felt they scored 52 points and they're not the one story of the day.
No, this game was like a total bonanza. Obviously, McCaffrey was. Cam Newton was serviceable. He threw 2 touchdowns, almost 200 passing yards. Like, it's not a good game, but he didn't completely tank, which you might expect if you get blown out this badly. But yeah, on the opposite side of the coin, it was just a pure bonanza. Ben Roethlisberger throws 5 touchdowns.
Over
James Conner gets a touchdown. Antonio Brown gets a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster gets a touchdown. Vance McDonald gets a touchdown. Basically, anyone on the Steelers who you would start for fantasy scored a touchdown.
How dare you not mention Jalen Samuels gets a touchdown?
Because no one would start Jalen Samuels.
You never know, man. Stop judging people, man. You don't know how deep these leagues are. You don't know if there's a Jalen Samuels fan club out there. I know a guy who's in love with Jalen Samuels, so.
I like Jalen Samuels, too. I actually drafted him in the Scott Fish Bowl, but I cut him earlier this year just because they weren't using him at all. It's interesting that they're starting to utilize him a little bit. Like, they were running James Conner into the ground. I guess my only thought might be that if they believe that Le'Veon's not playing this year, then they want to try and save up James Conner for the playoff run. So they're going to work Samuels in more, which could be interesting. But yeah, I was surprised by his usage. But I mean, we're talking about a blowout in which he got 8 touches, so it's not like it's anything dramatic.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Antonio Brown, like you mentioned, had a touchdown. He had 6 catches, 96 yards, so another good game by him. Juju, 3 catches, 90 yards, 1 touchdown. He kind of did it all on 1 catch in reality. But that's all it takes for some of these guys, man. 1 catch, and you got your points for the day, so that's what he did. And like you said, Ben Roethlisberger, 300-plus yards, 5 touchdowns. It was, like you said, a crazy day for fantasy-wise. Lots of points spread around. I mean, the only people that are let down right now are probably – a couple of Carolina receiver people who played Carolina receivers, and that's really it, right? I mean, is there anybody here that really disappointed from a fantasy aspect besides those guys?
I mean, Cam to an extent. Like, that's not what you're expecting from him. But that being said, like, that's the nice thing about Cam Newton. There's a lot of times he has a high floor, and that's typically because of the rushing. But in this case, it had nothing to do with his rushing.
Yeah. So good game overall, fun game from a fantasy aspect, and just from a an enjoyment aspect. Lots of scores is always fun to watch. But anything you take away from this game besides the obvious, or anything that concerns you? We'll talk a little more about Le'Veon.
There was one thing though while I was watching this game that really I was thinking about, which is a saying that often floats around like MMA circles and when referring to the UFC, which is there's levels to this game. I feel like that's really true of the NFL as well. Like, it's so interesting to see a Panthers team that's only lost 2 games on the season play one of the, what I would consider, elite 5-ish, 6 franchises in the NFL. I mean, you've got teams like the Rams, the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Steelers. Like, these upper echelon teams, the Saints are probably the other one, that just... They just look like they're playing a different game than everybody else. And when you have games like the one tonight, it just really showcases that.
So you're saying that you feel like even though the Panthers have this really good record, they're when they go up against a team who's at another level than them, they don't look as good.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, there's just levels to this game. Like, the Panthers are probably one of the 10 best teams in the NFL, but the separation between those elite 5 or 6 franchises and everyone else just seems so dramatic to me.
Yeah, like Meek Mill says, it's levels to this shit, young boy. You're like, what?
Pretty much. I'm like, all right, man.
Shit up, Adam. Come on, man.
Meek Mill. Woo.
Come on, man. Step your shit up. Anyway, that's it for Thursday Night Football, man. I mean, it's a lot, but there's not a lot. Like, it's one of those weird situations where, a lot happened in the game, but it's not even. It's not the score is not. The score is a surprise by that many points, but like the guys who did it, the people who were responsible, it's not a surprise. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about Le'Veon Bell a little bit later, because obviously he didn't play in this game, so there's no really reaction to him here. But we'll talk about him a little later. Something I did want to bring up with you because me and you were speaking in a chat with a few other people, and I was asking about quarterbacks and streaming, and everyone was mentioning Baker Mayfield, right? And I know he has a pretty decent matchup this week, but we didn't talk about it because we didn't have an episode last week because of scheduling issues. But, Hue Jackson was fired, and he said this decision was premature on his end. But it's always unfortunate, besides the fact that, we don't want to see people get fired and stuff. But the fantasy world rejoiced, in a sense, when he was let go, because a lot of people felt that he was holding, I don't know if you want to say holding the offense back or, not mixing it up enough, not letting people play to their capabilities. I don't know what you want to call it, but people just didn't feel like he was very inspiring. Last week, when he wasn't there, they didn't get a W, but, from a fantasy aspect, I think most people would agree that, the Cleveland offensive players were, I don't want to say they came to life because it wasn't like they were off the charts, but a lot of guys, did some more damage than they did when Hue Jackson was there. Somewhat, nothing really from the wide receivers, but guys that were sleeping kind of this year, and Mayfield did decent. What's your thoughts as far as, how much improvement this team can make with Hue gone this season? Like, are you, super excited about anything? Are you feeling like, it'll be a little better, but nothing like fantastic or nothing that you can kind of bank on? Like, how much does the coaching change matter to you at this point right now for fantasy for this season?
For fantasy, I think it's interesting, mostly because things are already heading in the right direction for the team, just from a sense of as Baker plays more games, he's going to get more comfortable in the offense, especially, I mean, the biggest setback ultimately was to give Baker Mayfield no touches throughout the entire offseason with the first-team offense. Because what you did in that is you just set him way behind the 8 ball for when he took over in week 3. So now he's had to take that time to kind of gel with the offense, and I feel like with losing Todd Haley, that was kind of a blessing in disguise, because often what happens, in my opinion, when NFL coaches, especially play callers, get fired in the middle of the season, is you run into situations where the offense is kind of recreated on the spot, and it's almost like a tandem between the quarterback and the new play caller. And I think that's a little bit of what you're going to have here, because ultimately you want to be working to Baker's strengths. So I think the offense is going to start shifting more in that direction. From a team perspective, I don't see them doing much better than going like 500 at best down the stretch here. They don't really have a lot of favorable matchups, so I don't really like it from a win-loss perspective throughout the rest of the season. But from a fantasy perspective, I mean, Baker has 3 straight games of multiple touchdowns, and now that they've, lost Todd Haley, they're starting to gel a little bit better. I think that they have the potential to improve and have Baker, be able to produce some big games, and hopefully Jarvis Landry in turn will turn that dramatic target share that he has into some real legitimate fantasy production, and some of the ancillary pieces like Duke Johnson and David Njoku can be serviceable.
Yeah, this is one of those, addition by subtraction scenarios where you take guys away and things get better. But, you mentioned Duke. I was super excited to see Duke have a big game. I actually was forced to start him in a place, and it paid out. But hopefully he continues to trend up. Chubb did well. Like you said, Landry didn't, and that was kind of the big bummer there. But, things are looking up for them, man. So we'll see. We'll see how it, continues to move, and if it continues to pay off. It was a 1-week high thing. They're trying to, I don't know. I always like when those kind of situations arise sometimes, because I feel like the players are then going to go into like this prove it type mode, if that makes sense. Obviously things can't be like a total shipwreck, but as long as things aren't horrible and the new coach isn't horrible, and there are good players there, I feel like players get motivated sometimes to like prove, even if their season is over, like playoff wise and stuff, to kind of prove something for themselves, so hopefully it pays off. And even referring to like these articles that Jake does at clockdodgers.com, he does these boom bust articles, and he has Duke Johnson on there this week as a boom player. Do you think that'll continue, that trend? Like Duke Johnson will continue to play well and the new coaches will just keep feeding him, or do you think that was a 1-week thing and we got to he'll still be inconsistent?
It was weird because I was looking at his snap share numbers and they didn't really increase. So really what increased is his target rate. You wonder if it was a little bit game scripted. I mean, essentially they're in a game with Kansas City. They're playing from behind most of the game. It's a shootout. And the only way they're going to keep up with Kansas City is to throw the ball a lot. When you throw the ball a lot, oftentimes you have a young quarterback, he's going to be checking down more. With Carlos Hyde moving on to Jacksonville, obviously it opens up more touches in the offense for Duke Johnson, but I think that, it's going to be game script dependent a little bit. That being said, their schedule moving forward is very difficult, so the game script's probably going to be in the favor of a Duke Johnson moving forward more than like a Nick Chubb. So yeah, I mean, I think he has the potential to be flex-worthy just simply based upon the fact that, he should see a similar snap share, but his increase in targets is just going to be completely related to game script, and I just think that there's going to be a lot of games where they have to throw.
So let me ask you this then, rest of the season PPR, you want Chubb or you want Johnson?
Man, that's really tough, but I think in PPR, I think I'd want Duke Johnson. It's tough, though, because, I mean, you run into a situation where, like, Duke Johnson I feel much more confident in. But I think I know what Duke Johnson is. Like, I don't expect Duke Johnson to turn into, like, a James White, where he is that, we know what he is from a skill position standpoint, but he becomes this elite fantasy producer. Like, I just don't see that happening in any way for Duke Johnson. Whereas with Nick Chubb, there is that possibility that he could just, go lights out. But I think ultimately in a PPR league, I'd probably want Duke Johnson just because I feel more confident in the stability.
Makes sense. And also, just because I'm already looking at his article, staying on his article for a second, he has TJ Yeldon as a bust, obviously, because Leonard Fournette's returning. That's going to be a weird situation there, right? Hyde, Fournette, Yeldon. I mean, ultimately, how do you think that plays out? Do you think they're just going to force feed Fournette again, everybody else gets forgotten? Or do you think they're going to be like, yeah, we're going to take this a little differently this time around?
I don't think the Jags have any idea what they're doing on offense. I mean, honestly, like they
got Bortles,
benched
man.
Blake Bortles, and then they just start in the next week. It's like, guys, what was the point of benching him? Like, it's such a bad move, especially with a guy like Blake Bortles, because if you're going to show a team that you're behind the quarterback, and especially when you have a quarterback like Blake Bortles, because we all know he's not elite. We all know that he's at best a middle-of-the-road style quarterback. And for players that are already in a position where the team might not be behind them, the absolute worst thing that you can do is bench them for the backup and then start them the next week. Like, it totally hurts them from a team mentality standpoint. And I think it ultimately just shows that the Jags have no idea what they want to do on offense. So it might even just end up being a situation where they just decide, we're going to run the ball. Blake Bortles is great at running the ball himself. We have 3 awesome running backs who we can use interchangeably. Let's just run the ball like crazy and play great defense. I'm thinking that might be what they try and do. As odd as it might sound in today's NFL, it might just be that they're just afraid of Blake Bortles losing them games. They think they have this elite defense and they can just put him out there and stop people and just be able to run the football and play that old school style of offense. We'll see if it works. I don't think it will, but I think that's what they're going for.
Don't take the ball to TJ Yeldon's hands. Come on, Jaguars. Don't be stupid, man. Don't be stupid. Fournette's going to get hurt right away again. Just watch. Just watch. It's coming, Adam. It's coming. It's going to happen. And, go check out Jake's Boomer Bust articles. Those are fun. Trust issues time, man. It's time for trust issues. I got to get to this because there's players, man. Listen, there's players being mentioned. I want to know, I see these names a lot in the social media circle that I'm in, whether it's in the chats, whether it's on, Instagram, Twitter, or wherever. So I'm going to throw the names at you. I want to know if you trust them, or if you got trust issues. And, of course, anyone listening, I always like people, to play along. If you have players you're curious about, whether, we trust them or not, send them our way. We'll definitely throw them into the old game here. But the first one I want to throw at you, Adam, it's a name I'm hearing a lot, for good reason, obviously. But I guess some people just don't expect it from him or don't believe it can keep carrying him. But the first one for you is Rams wide receiver Robert Woods.
Trust. I do not get this. Why is this a question mark?
He's
been a top 12 wide receiver this year. He was a top 12 wide receiver last year. Like, he's getting the targets. I think people just want to like everyone else in that offense and just leave Robert Woods behind. But he's producing. Like, I love guys like Robert Woods because he's like a great player to try and trade for, because you can just kind of hope that the owner who has him also has this ridiculous mentality that he's on an elite offense and he's getting a large target share, and yet somehow he's not going to be productive because there's other talented players on the team.
Is he your favorite wide receiver there? Or do you understand that concern a little bit?
That's really tough because I think that he probably is my favorite wide receiver there. But that being said, I think all 3 are pretty much must-start guys each week. Like, if Kupp's healthy and playing, I want to start him. If Cook's healthy and playing, I want to start him.
Yeah, it's one of those
so I
situations.
think in a way it's weird because, I'd probably rank Woods the highest, but I think they're all kind of that same sort of thing where because there's 3 of them and they're all able to have big weeks, in turn, each of them are going to have some disappointing weeks. It's going to happen just based upon them spreading the ball around. but you want to have those guys in your lineup just due to the fact that offense has so few down weeks.
Yeah,
I mean,
people people keep asking about Goff and these wide receivers. It's like let's just put it this way, guys. They have this guy named Todd Gurley who keeps the defenses honest as fuck, and so like it's never gonna stop. Like it's just not, unless there's off weeks for some strange chance. Like they're just gonna keep doing it, right? Because teams cannot focus on Gurley and these wide receivers, and they can't double team anybody. They can't make it rough on anybody because they can't focus anywhere. Do you know what I mean? You can't, if one wide receiver is hot, the other one's going off, the other one's not going off, the other one's going off, and then Gurley's just running and running and running. So it's like it's not gonna stop. Like I know people are like, sometimes I think people feel like a good thing has to stop like at some point, right? But
there's so much of that. There is so much of people wanting to get out from under things before they go bad, and yet I think what often happens is you often end up selling on players that just kind of stay what they were. Or, yeah, they might be a little inconsistent, but they still have some boom weeks that could have really helped you along throughout your season.
Exactly. Yeah, it's real. We've talked about it on here before about people, I understand the need or the want to sell people, sell off players and trade them off before, they stop. But sometimes you got to slow down, man. You got to just appreciate and respect what's happening and believe it, and believe it's going to keep continuing. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I agree with you, though. I trust him. The next one, Corey Davis.
Trust issues. I don't know why. I know he's a very talented player, but I feel like I need to continually see it from that offense. I just can't trust them. Like, I don't believe the whole Matt LaFleur thing. Like, it's the offense more than Corey Davis, right? Yeah, they feel too inconsistent. Like, I don't trust Mariota. I don't trust Matt LaFleur. I feel like Corey Davis is an extremely talented player, but I can't trust everything around him.
Unless the name is Deion Lewis.
Gross.
All right, next player on the trust or trust issues list. This is your guy, man. This is your guy. I wasn't a believer going into this year. You were big on him. I forget if you were big on him this year, but I think you were. Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah. Big on him this year. Trust him going forward. I think what they're going to do on offense moving forward is just try and put the ball in the hands of the players they can trust. It's not that complicated, really. I mean, I think they're just going to kind of get back to the simple way of moving forward. Obviously, they're not going to be in the playoff hunt this year or anything, and it's sad because, I mean, ultimately Larry Fitzgerald is going to end his career in Arizona, likely on a low note, hopefully not this year, but, I feel like moving forward, he's getting healthy. I want to say he had a hamstring injury. Now that I'm thinking about it, I can't remember. He had some lower body injury. I can't remember for sure. I think it's his hamstring. But it feels like he's, starting to come along from that. And coinciding with that, they have this change in the offense. So hopefully those two factors are enough to kind of make him, a trustworthy fantasy asset moving forward.
You got to trust him, man. You were all in on him earlier, so I'm sure you got him on a whole bunch of teams.
Definitely do.
Just hoping he pays off now. That's fair, man. I mean, you made some good points, and speaking of the Cardinals, since we brought them up, I seen Casey Kasem on Twitter. At the Casey Kasem. I seen she had posted this trade that she did, that I guess she was getting some slack for in a dynasty league, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I think she sold David Johnson for a good price. A really good price.
Yeah, I think she traded what? She traded DJ for Robert Woods and then like 2 first-round picks or something.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know what the hoopla was about on that one, man.
I don't know. I think people just want to have this feeling that anybody who's selling David Johnson now is selling low. There also was a lot of talk in the comments of that I read through about how Robert Woods is like the 3rd best receiver on the Rams and how he can't be elite because Gurley's there and all this ridiculous nonsense that's not backed up by any fact. It's just BS opinion that happened to be being thrown around by an individual who you and I used to be in a group chat with. But yeah, it's really one of the things that I hate about the fantasy community. I think that there's a lot of that. There's a lot of take lock where it's like, I already believe this, so I just gotta like lock in real hard and, just stick with what I was saying before, because I can't change my opinion now. And I don't know. It's just, ultimately, it just makes for these sad, underwhelming arguments. I mean, you're talking about a player in Robert Woods who was top 12 last year, is pacing to be top 12 again this year, trading him for David Johnson, who obviously has been elite, but just got off of missing an entire year in the NFL, and now has came back and is just not himself. Like, ultimately, you can blame it on the offense, you can blame it on him recovering from injury this year, you can blame it on a lot of factors, but when you have a situation where a player drops off this dramatically, I mean, he's a running back 2 now for all intents and purposes. Like, you can't trust him even as an RB1. So to be able to sell him, get back a wide receiver 1 and then 2 first-round picks, to me, that's stealing. Like, but that's what's great about Dynasty, is everybody values players differently. So sometimes you can just literally get away with highway robbery and then have people on the internet think that you sold too low. It's hilarious, but it's just all about how different people value different situations. And that's funny coming from me, because I'm normally not the person who wants to, like, sell out for picks. But that, to me, is fantastic value.
Yeah, obviously there's a whole bunch of different variables when it comes to Dynasty and, the position of your team and how you're doing. Are you a rebuild, this and that? But, yeah, I mean, just, staring at it from the outside, looking in, not knowing anything else, I think it's a good trade. So whoever's giving Casey shit about it, shut the fuck up. But, yeah, it's a good trade. I think it's a good trade. And the last name I have for you, Adam, is 49ers 17-year-old quarterback Nick Mullens.
I'm going to say trust issues. I'm going to let this kid prove it to me. I don't know.
He didn't prove it against the Raiders?
It's fine. No, the Raiders are god-awful, and you know it.
I do.
Like, I know. You bet me about them being above 8-8 this year, dude.
It wasn't ridiculous when I did it. They had Mac. Yeah. They had Cooper.
Because that made all the hopes in the world. Yeah, the only name that mattered on that team ever was Gruden, and it's sad, but it's not going to happen for them for like a decade. So move on. Find a new team. Neil, we should find you a new team.
My wife tells me that all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
every
it's
sport,
true, though.
In
like,
baseball, basketball, football. I'm a fan of all losers right now, and it's been like that pretty much my whole life. So yeah, she doesn't understand it.
You know how to pick them, buddy.
I know how to pick them, man. Loyalty is one of those things, man. It has its ups and its downs. You just.
Hey,
oh, man.
I mean, I get the loyalty aspect, but it's also fun to, like, have a backup team. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, of course I'm a Bears fan. I'm from Chicago. But I also like the Cowboys because they were great.
It's not fair. It's cheating, man.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like saying, it's nice to have this backup wife. I mean, the other one gets me down, the other one gets me better, They wouldn't agree with you on that, right? They wouldn't agree with you on that. Morally, socially, you would be condemned at them. So
yeah, you just compared football teams to wives.
Yeah,
so
I went there.
Who's really the one being
I went
condemned?
there. I fucking went there. Sometimes you gotta go there, man. Sometimes you gotta go there. So you don't believe in this 17-year-old who can't grow a beard, but you can't grow one either, and you should really side with him for that mere fact, because you kind of guys need to stick together.
I could totally grow a beard. I just don't.
I don't believe you.
Do you want me to? I could go with No Shave November.
No shave.
I just hate it. I get itchy as hell. Like, I can't stand that, like, after 4 or 5 days. I just get terribly itchy, and I just never want to go past that point.
You're not willing to sacrifice, and that's your problem.
No, I'm just like, no, get rid of this. I don't know. I'm that type of person, though. If something, like, annoys me, I just want to get rid of it. But I also shave my head. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to deal with my hair. I just shave my head. But you know that life.
Yeah. All up in the shave your head life. It's definitely my wave. Definitely my wave. Although when I first did it, I was terrified. I won't lie, man. Heart was beating out of my chest. Like, I can't. Am I really doing this?
It's funny because I would go the full shaved head route, like not just buzz down to a 0. But to me, it's not. I don't really care about being entirely bald. Like that, I'm fine with. Mostly because my older brother is like a totally shaved head and looks fine, so I think I'll be all right. But that being said, I just never want to put in that work.
That's
like
weird,
I hate normal shaving.
It's
like
weird.
Why would I shave my head? That's what makes you hilarious to me. Is you have this giant beard, and yet you shave your head. Like, you make yourself still have to shave.
Some things have to happen, man. Some things have to
guess.
happen. It's my moneymaker, bro. It's the moneymaker. So it's what pays the bills around here.
Your shiny cute ball is your moneymaker.
Pays the bills around this place. Let's jump off of trust and trust issues. Let's just jump over to some listener questions, some listener comments, some things that were sent over to us. First is from Niner Fan 909. What happens to the Steelers' backfield if Bell comes back? Let's not get too crazy into it. Just what happens?
Well, first and foremost, I think that he doesn't play like the first game or two that he comes back. But I think ultimately what ends up happening is it becomes a very split backfield. And I think you run into a situation where both Connor and Bell would end up having to be startable each week, but they'll kind of be almost like Kamara and Ingram, where, one has huge blow-up weeks while the other doesn't really do anything. They'll have some weeks where they both are somewhat productive. It's going to be a situation that's a little bit of a headache, but you're just going to end up having to play both, I think, more likely than not.
I agree. Also under the same category, Meadowlands Man said trade for Bell under any circumstances.
Not under any circumstances. No. I mean, we don't even know if the guy's playing. Like, he's
would you trade for him
right now like you would retire.
Now, would you trade for him right now under any circumstances?
Yeah, so here's what I'm doing, and I'm actually doing this in a lot of leagues, and it's not working in any. So, take it all with a grain of salt. But what I'm trying to do is in leagues that I am positioned to make like a good run at the playoffs, and I think I can win the championship, I am trying to trade my, like, not necessarily worst starter, but like my RB2 plus an ancillary bench piece that's like still good, but I'm not playing him based on my roster, and trying to acquire Bell that way. I've tried that offer in a few leagues. Like, there was a league I offered Marlon Mack, and I can't remember who the wide receiver I offered with Mack for Bell was, but it got turned down. And like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feel out the Bell owner to see. But I think ultimately anybody who held on to Bell this long, like, they're just not going to trade him.
Yeah, they're just holding on to him for principle at this point.
Basically.
Wrath of Doom. Can someone tell me why Tomlin has Connor sitting on the sidelines? Is Connor sitting on the sidelines?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like we talked about before. Ultimately, if they think that Bell's not coming back, they need Connor for the playoff run. So, yeah, Samuels is going to start getting worked in a lot more as the season winds down.
Resting him up a little bit. Don't be too concerned. I guess I can understand your frustration since you obviously played him this week, though. So
he had less than 10 Samuels had less than 10 touches in a blowout. Like, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things. All right, this question is from Blake B221. He actually asked this question last week. His first question was, will Amari Cooper and Zeke both get better now? Obviously, we seen Amari Cooper score a touchdown. It wasn't like he killed it or anything, but he scored a touchdown. Amari Cooper people got happy because he did something. Are you loving him there? Are you just okay with it? Is it no different than him being a Raider? What's your take on Cooper right now with the Cowboys, Adam?
Slight improvement from where he was as a Raider. I mean, ultimately, like,
that's it.
They're very similar offenses and offensive production, but the Raiders are literally one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL right now.
How many times are you going to say that?
So, yeah. I mean, it's
how
true.
Many times you got to bring this up?
True.
How many times on this podcast, on a
like
weekly basis,
right.
are we going to bring up the fact that the Raiders are not a very good football team?
That's a really cute way of putting that. They're not very good. They're just not very good.
Anyway, on to Blake's second question. This is not fantasy related, which we love, but do you think ayahuasca DMT thing is legit? Of course it is.
What do you mean is legit?
I guess it's legit. Does it work, man?
I mean...
I've never tried it. I don't think you have either, but of course we both listen to the Joe Rogan podcast and other things like that. We've done our research. I mean, from everything I've seen, it works to whatever effect you're looking for, right? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people come back and say, that shit sucked. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, I could rant on it for a while, but I mean, it's not a matter of does dimethyltryptamine work. I mean, dimethyltryptamine is a chemical They know it's a chemical. They know it exists in the pineal gland of your brain.
It's going to take you to space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about all what occurs, per se, from different people's perspectives being true. That all being stated, like, I don't know if I understand the question. Like, yeah, obviously.
Listen, man, it's going to take you to another planet when you take it, and that means it worked. If there's something you wanted to get out of it, I guess.
What's that?
I said if there's some end result that you wanted, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've heard people say like they've taken it and then they didn't have fear of such and such no more. Or
I mean,
you know.
This is true. Ayahuasca is actually used a lot with terminally ill people. They go through ayahuasca ceremonies, and a lot of them come out feeling more comfortable with the idea of death.
I didn't mean that dark, Adam.
It's
you
true,
didn't have to go to the end of the world. I'm talking about just, on a lesser level. Just people who fear certain things too, not death. But
it's true.
Or not people that are dying, I'm saying. But
there is literally a documentary that's on that exact subject in regards to ayahuasca use. That all being said, I mean, I actually know 2 people who did ayahuasca, and their experience was very similar to a lot of other ones that you hear.
Why don't we get you to do it, man?
I don't. I don't know.
We need you to do it. We document it. We put it out there. I'm just saying, it's an idea.
I don't know if I want to get that violently ill. Like, that sounds not fun.
Living in that fucking house, you might as well be doing it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking gassing you from the floor, AC blowing, humidifiers going. Throw a little ayahuasca, man. You're good. Listen, moving on. B. Joffrey asks this question. How do you stay motivated when your fantasy season has sucked ass? Nothing worse than an owner that ghosts mid-season, so how do you keep yourself from becoming that owner?
I don't know, playing enough leagues that you care about some, and then just make that a reason to set all your lineups. Like
Pretty
that.
much.
I mean, that's basically what I do. I mean, there's obviously some leagues that I don't think I'm going to win. Like, I can already tell the team's not good enough, and I probably can't make enough trades to, like, really get in a position to win the championship in those leagues. But I have enough other leagues that I care about that it just has become rhythm to set all those lineups. So
I just do it to fuck up people's days.
I mean, you can do it out of spite, sure.
Yeah, there's nothing like
I don't know. I often don't
that.
even realize who my opponents are in leagues until like I go into that week and I go, oh snap, I'm playing Josh, for instance.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, I like to see that person has like a good record and I know they're like fighting for a playoff spot. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna try to fucking make you miserable this week. That's all I'm gonna go for. And it works sometimes, it kind of motivates you.
Yeah, it's solid motivation.
It's not bad. It's a good idea. Try it. It works. And he had another question. I don't know why you'd want to do this, but how do I convince my league to bail on tight ends next year?
Oh, I played in one league for a long time that had wide receiver tight end flexes.
So maybe that's the move. Maybe that's the move. Like, ease them into it.
That is the move, is to have wide receiver tight end flexes. I will say, like, I get it from the stance of there's really only, like, 3 tight ends in the NFL right now that feel reliable to any, like, week-to-week reliability. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a cop-out. Like, it's still a pretty relevant position. There's still enough to go around. And honestly, I think that when there's less of a skill position that are really, sought after, that it makes the position almost more interesting. Like, for instance, in the leagues that I do have, Kelsey, Ertz, or Kittle, like the 3 that I think are reliable, those teams feel like juggernauts because that position where everyone else is feeling like they have an unreliable player, I have a reliable player who can have big weeks. And then I can fill in the rest of my roster and make trades to improve those other positions. And I feel like I have that constant edge. It's almost like trying to win the flex in a way.
Right.
Like, winning the tight end is also very similar, especially if you have, like, Kittle, where you were able to draft him later. Because typically I wasn't drafting tight ends early. Like, where I own Ertz or where I own Kelsey, that's in Dynasty. But for redraft, owning a guy like Kittle, like, that's huge. I mean, you have a huge advantage over the position versus everybody else who drafted tight end in that range.
Now I feel you. I mean, I tend to go the other way by adding positions like that because I want to make it more difficult. But
God, that 2 tight end league, that
beautiful.
2 tight end dynasty league is so gross.
It's beautiful, man.
It feels so gross right now.
It's beautiful. But listen, this is what I say when it comes to stuff like this. Rather than trying to convince your league to go no tight end, you should just start a league with no tight end and have people join who are with it. Because I'm tired of convincing people to do shit, man. People just do what they want to do. So you create your shit and let people come to you, or you seek them out and say, listen, no tight end league, we're doing it this way, and people will just join in and enjoy it. So fuck trying to convince people to do shit. Just do it yourself, make it happen. It'll be cool. And he's a good dude, so he'll be able to do it. All right, that's it for the questions this week. Let's move over to Fowler No Foul. Fowler No Foul. This Saturday, Adam, November 10th, is a UFC event. So this Saturday, November 10th, Mike Perry will beat Cowboy Cerrone. Foul or no foul?
I'm going to say no foul. I don't really like Mike Perry, I'll be honest. Like,
you don't like the shtick?
No, I don't like the shtick, and I also, I've watched him fight, and I don't know. I personally just have never vibed with him, per se. That being said, I mean, Cerrone's a tough out that is becoming less difficult of an out over time. That being said, I mean, he's one of those guys that if he actually put in the time and has had a good camp, he's obviously letting his body heal a little bit more now than he was before. We was fighting 7 times a year. I mean, I think it gives him a chance. I think Mike Perry probably wins the fight. I don't know if I'm watching. I don't know. Are you watching?
I'm gonna watch.
I'm gonna watch Mike Perry?
I'm gonna watch. I always try to catch these things. I'm gonna say foul though, because I love Cowboy Cerrone and I think he's gonna win. My thing with Cowboy is if he can get past that initial first round, he usually can do some damage. It's it seems to be whenever someone rushes him straight out the gate and overwhelms him, for some reason that fucks with him, man. And hopefully Mike Perry doesn't do that. But Cowboy Cerrone's got a lot going on right now. He just had a kid. He also left the training camp that he's been at forever, where Mike Perry actually just joined recently.
Yeah,
so
I heard that.
So there's some emotion there that maybe he doesn't have normally in other fights. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Mike Perry comes across sometimes very clownish and stuff, like you said, his little shtick, he does everywhere. But it's fun, whatever. But yeah, I hope Cowboy wins personally.
Can we talk for a second about how the UFC is just becoming professional wrestling? Not even in a bad way, because it's kind of what I always wanted when I was a kid. Professional wrestling that's real. But
that's true.
It is, man. It really, really is. And, some people do it well. Ben Askren's stuff on social media has been awesome and entertaining. But then you get, the Colby Covingtons of the world that are just so cringy that I can't even watch an interview with them. So, I don't know. It's weird what's happening to the sport. It's definitely interesting how fighting becomes such a different thing than other sports. I get it in some aspect because it's such a primal thing, but it's just so funny how it just morphs into this. It has to either go one direction or the other, where it's it has to be very traditional and extremely respectful, or it's the total opposite Americanized version of fighting, where it's just everybody's got to have this huge bravado and just talk trash. And
it's because entertainment becomes a part of everything, man. Even if you think about fantasy football, right? When it first came out, it was not entertaining at all. It wasn't the people talking about it and the people bringing you advice and stuff. They weren't entertaining at all. They were just boring ass stat people throwing numbers at you, whatever. And then entertainers got into fantasy football and started getting radio gigs and doing stuff and getting attention for it. Now the people are oh shit, we got to get entertaining also while we give advice. And so things started to change. And that's the same thing with fighting, right? First UFC was just fighting, and then entertainers came into fighting and got attention just for being entertaining. And now the other fighters who are just fighters are oh shit, we have to be entertaining. You know what I mean? So I think the cringeworthy stuff comes when people who aren't really entertaining try to act like they are. Do you know what I mean? So, and that happens in all walks of life. Anything that people consume content of, people are not really good at it, and some of them are really great at it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't mind it. If it gets more eyes on things and it gets guys paid, you know, it is what it is. I know some of them are, you know, weak at it, but I don't mind it, I guess. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It is what it is, Adam. It is what it is. I mean, look at entertainment got... No, I don't want to say it got him there. Never mind. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, the DC fight, man, it wasn't fun to watch.
Why is that?
Because it just ended too quick for me. It wasn't... I don't like the fights, man, where, like, even with Conor in his last fight with Khabib, I'm not a fighter. I'm not going to pretend to give advice to it, but I feel like those guys, him and, what's his name, Lewis, they both went in, like, so defensive, right? And it's like, just attack. You know you're not going to beat this dude at his game. Like, it's just not going to happen. So just attack straight out the gate rather than drag this shit out and lose anyway. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
No, I think it's an oversimplification. I think what's happening right now is we're really having it ingrained that wrestling is what matters. You have to have a wrestling base.
Yeah.
If you do not have a wrestling
It's
base,
Superstone.
you have nothing.
But that's what
And
I
in
mean.
that way-
but that's what I mean. If you don't have it, why fuck around? Why not just go in there and say, if I let this guy get to wrestling, I'm gonna lose regardless. So I might as well just get crazy.
Maybe, but
Do you
you're
know what
going
I
to
mean?
lose regardless. I think it's
Yeah.
the part that needs to be focused on. I mean, and in that way, like, a guy like Tyron Woodley, it's going to be really interesting because he's already, you know, have 4 title defenses and feels like he's getting no respect. And he's that perfect kind of hybrid where that dude is an amazing wrestler and he can keep the fight standing and he has one-punch knockout power. Like, that's everything that you want.
Yep.
And yet nobody likes to do.
No
And
one wants to do it.
you know, he really is what I feel like the sport's turning into, you know.
Yeah.
Guys who can fight like him, who can fight like John Jones, where they can have amazing stand up, but they can also wrestle so well that they can keep the fight standing if they want to, or they can just completely out wrestle you. Like, they're fascinating.
Yeah. It's fun, man. There's some interesting fighters. I'm interested to see John Jones back, man. That's what I can't wait for. All right, number 2, Le'Veon Bell will report to the Steelers next week. Foul or no foul?
I don't fucking know. I'm not even.
That's
I can't
not
even
an
give it a
option,
foul
my
or no
friend.
foul. I mean, at this point, like, I'm gonna say no foul, but only just because it's with my heart. Like, I want him to come back. I just that's what I want.
This guy's
But
emotionally
I
invested.
have no idea.
I hope
No
he does.
idea.
I hope he does, man.
He's out there tweeting upside down and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, he's
that's crazy.
freaking on an episode of
I
Stranger
never know you
Things.
could do these things, and people do them. And I'm like, what? I would have been tweeting upside down this whole time. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. But hopefully he comes back. I just want to see him come back, man. Fuck all that fancy shit. I just want to see Le'Veon Bell play football again. Number 3, newly signed Saints wide receiver Des Bryant will make a noteworthy impact in the second half of fantasy football this season. Foul or no foul?
No foul. I gotta say, I don't get what I'm seeing on Twitter right now.
The hate?
With people who are just like, oh, I don't even get why anyone would pick up Des Bryant. He's done. He's washed. Like, you pick up Des Bryant because he's a potential league winner, and if he is done and washed, all it took was a waiver wire pickup. Like, I don't get this mentality where people are so obsessed with being right about a player, you know, not being able to succeed, that they won't even take a risk on a player whose upside is just astronomical. Like, think if Dez does hit and Michael Thomas gets injured. You have that insane target share switch from Michael Thomas over to Des Bryant, and all of a sudden, he's a top 5 wide receiver. It's possible. Is it probable? No, definitely not. It would take an injury, and it would take him coming back and playing at a level that he played at before. All that being said, this is the best quarterback he's ever played with, in the best offense he's ever been in, with the best play caller he's ever played for. It's the best situation for him. So I think just from an upside standpoint, I don't understand why people aren't just doing anything they can right now to just acquire him. I mean, really, like, I'm looking to trade any ancillary pieces I have on my benches for him. I'm looking to pick him up. I think I pick him up in the Scott Fishbowl for free. Like, I think that no one else bid on him in my league because I'm in first place and I have no bidding dollars left. I'm double checking right now, but I'm almost positive I picked him up, which is just wild to me. that nobody else even cared to pick him up. Nobody else even thought that he was worth dropping a player for. It's wild. I completely am flabbergasted at the lack of enthusiasm. And yeah, that's the case. I picked him up for $0. I'm in first place in my Scott Fish Bowl division, so that means literally no one else even bid on him. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Some things aren't meant to be understood, Adam. They're just not. That's why you're in first place, maybe, man.
It's shake my damn head. Like, it's just.
I actually haven't made a move in Scott Fish Bowl since I picked up Lindsay, which was like week 1. Something like that, week 2, whatever.
I love playing the waiver wire in the Scott Fish Bowl because I feel like everybody kind of goes hard at the beginning, but I don't know. As the season wears on, I feel like, as people become, less likely to make the playoffs, they bid less, and if you're actually in the running, you can pick up some decent pieces. I mean, like I said, I was able to get Dez. There was one other player that I picked up on waivers, and now I can't remember who it was offhand. But I also got him for a $0 bid, and it was, just a piece that could do something. But at the end of the day, like, that sort of roster churning to me is what you have to look to do to be successful.
My team's damn stacked. What you want me to do, man?
Yeah, if you got nobody to drop just because you're that good, you're just that good.
I should have went after someone like Mullens or something. I should have did something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Mullens definitely went in my league. I didn't see for what amount, but yeah, it definitely went for something because I had a 0 bid.
Should have went for somebody. I don't know, man. All right, and the last one I want to throw at you, I don't even know if you watch this, but Tyson Fury will beat Deontay Wilder on December 1st. Foul or no foul?
No foul. I'm cheering for Tyson Fury. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. Yeah, I'm probably tuning in. I mean, I don't think I have anything else going on, so I'm going to try and tune in. What's the day of it?
December 1st.
December 1st. Okay. I'm almost.
You got time to make plans, man. You got time to get the schedule open.
Yeah, I know. I don't think I have anything going on, but once the holidays start up, it's almost impossible to have a weekend that you're free. But yeah, I mean, if I'm able to watch it, I'll definitely be watching it. And honestly, like, I would encourage anybody who's even like the slightest bit interested to watch it. Like it for all intents and purposes, it seems like it should be a phenomenal fight. So
yeah, 100%. It's an interesting one. And even if you're not gonna watch it, go listen to the Joe Rogan podcast with Tyson Fury. That was a good one. Discussed like depression and how he got out of it and stuff. Really awesome. So definitely go check that out too. But yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting fight. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what happens. Guy that was a champ, lost it all, and the young up-and-comer. I don't know. It'll be fun to watch. I'm not even a crazy boxing fan, but I'm going to watch that for sure. But so you think Fury will win?
Yeah, I mean, that's who I'm rooting for.
You don't believe in the one-trick pony, as Wilder calls him. As Fury calls Wilder. Says he's got nothing but a hard punch. We'll see, man. Sometimes that hard punch is all it takes.
Yeah, damn right. I mean, what's interesting is, Tyson Fury winning will probably be less exciting than if Deontay Wilder wins, because Deontay Wilder would win by a knockout. Like, that's my expectation. Like, Tyson Fury could knock him out, but more likely than not, he's gonna, get a technical TKO, or he'll more likely just be able to outpoint him throughout the entirety of the fight. But I mean, these are big boys. Like, anybody can go down at any moment, and that's what makes it exciting.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for foul or no foul. Last thing we have to do, Adam, is show and tell. I don't know if you have anything. I don't know if you have anything at all. For those who don't know, we just are. This is the part of the show where, like, if you were, just put yourself back as a kid, man, right? Show and tell was an exciting time. My son loves it. He has it at school all the time. So we do it here on the show. We share a thought, a product, a TV show, music, anything. Adam's been sharing music for the last fucking 3 months. So if you have anything to share, this is our moment to do it. Adam, do you have anything to share today?
Yeah, I do, actually, and it's not music, you jerk. I just started listening to it again or watching it. It's a podcast that's not even really a podcast. It's the Kill Tony podcast, which is filmed at the world-famous Comedy Store in California. And ultimately what it is, for those who are completely unaware, is it is a live performance that's filmed each week in which it's basically like an open mic, but open mic stand-up comedians get to do 1 minute, and they're judged by Tony Hinchcliffe and 2 guest judges each week. And the premise of it seems really simplistic, but if you actually watch it, it just becomes so hilarious, because 90% of the people who end up getting up to do a minute of stand-up are either awful or just so weird that these amazing interviews happen afterwards. Because what happens is the performer gets up and they do their minute of attempting to do stand-up comedy. And occasionally you get, like, you know, legit up-and-coming stand-up comedians who do a great minute, and then they get to have this interesting conversation about, you know, joke writing and being able to develop their comedy, and that's interesting from that perspective. But what makes it so entertaining is the chaos that ensues with bad comedy, or just people who want to be on stage, which happens a lot at open mics. And I was watching an episode the other day, and I was laughing so hard out loud. And it's just so rare, at least in my life, to catch something that just has me literally like belly laughing out loud. And it does it so often. You were real life LOLing. Yes, I guess, if that's the cringiest way you want to put that. Sure. That was LOL. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I made an audible noise. It happened.
Who does such a thing? You're supposed to just like type that out. You're not supposed to actually do it. Just fucking with you, man. Just fucking with you. Yeah, so it's good. And he was actually on Joe Rogan recently too, talking about it, which sounds like it's blown up since he started that thing. Because when he first started, it was a little show, man. Now it's huge. So that's good. Yeah, he. What I like about Tony, like from a comedian standpoint or whatever, is that he's like super quick, man. Like fires back at people so quick with things, and I'm like, how in the world can someone be so quick with it, man?
Oh yeah, and that forum too, like being critical of these comedians doing a minute. He's just so good at it. He's so witty at just like quick comebacks that just tear people apart, but in a way where it's just like it's not meant to be like hurtful. Yeah. Like and everybody kind of gets it, and for the vast majority of people, they're kind of in on it. That being said, occasionally you'll get people who really aren't, and then it gets, you know, this heated conflict, and things can get really interesting that way. And that's one of the things that's most interesting about it, is it's filmed live. So, like, it has a little Jerry Springer-esque feel to it, where it's like, shit can go down at any moment. Like, wild stuff can happen. And back in the day, I actually remember I watched a couple episodes that were just live streamed on YouTube when they were live streamed. And it was wild, because really anything can happen at any moment. And sometimes some crazy stuff would go down. But ultimately, it's always really, really funny. And I just think it's such a unique show that it just, to me, it's just unlike anything else. And I just highly recommend it. It's really entertaining.
No, yeah, it is good stuff. And speaking of Jerry Springer, man, I seen it on TV recently. And I was looking at it, and I couldn't tell if it was new. It looked new. Like, it didn't look like old production, but...
Oh, man, I thought you were going to say something different. I thought you were going to say, I could have sworn I saw you, because I was actually on an episode of Jerry Springer in the audience asking a question.
I was just... Were you seriously?
Yeah, 100%. Wow. Actually, even better than that. even better than that. I was on the episode, but then I also fed a line to my friend. This is way back in like I think it was like my freshman year of college. I was like 19, and I went with 3 friends, and one of my friends happens to be black, and I delivered a line to him because it sounded way better coming out of his mouth than mine. And I can't remember the exact line, but I'm going to do my best to recreate it.
How have we never talked about this?
Oh, my God, I don't know. It just never came up.
What I was going to say was, when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, where do they get these people in the fucking audience? I'm like, who is really watching this? I'm like, are they giving away free tickets to college kids? Like, who is signing up to go here? Because when I watched it on TV at this age, I was like, what is going on, man? I cannot believe this is legitimate right now. Like,
oh my God, it was wild. So the episode that I ended up at was one of the episodes that was very common on Jerry Springer, which essentially was like, I'm cheating on you behind your back, and now I'm going to confront you with my new lover. So it was a lot of that shit.
Right. And you were just out there cheering, right? Jerry, Jerry.
Oh, of course. Of course. They have a Jerry, like, light that tells you when to cheer Jerry. It's great.
Crazy.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And it's so surreal because you can't tell how much of it is, like, not scripted, but played up. And how much of it is just like, these are just legit crazy people. And you're just watching them for fun, I guess.
Adam,
but anywho.
You know what episode you were on, and you need to tell us right fucking now.
I don't.
You have it recorded. Do not lie. Do not lie.
I wish I did. No, and I don't have it recorded. So the best I can do is recreate the situation and try and explain it. Because it does sit in my mind pretty solidly. Because it was pretty damn fun.
I am going to be on YouTube for hours searching for you.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know,
Let's
right?
hear this question. Let's hear this question so I know what to look for.
So, all right. It wasn't really a question, it was a comment. But anyway, I got to set it up. So there were two different couples that are relevant to this. In one of the couples, it was like a weird, like, husband, wife, and like other dude situation. And the only reason it was relevant is one of the guys got into a fight with the other guy. And he, in that fight, lost his tooth. And he brought his tooth to show Jerry.
Wow.
And he kept bringing up how this dude knocked my tooth out. And he kept showing off the tooth. So he brought that up a lot. And then there was this other couple that was another, three-way situation where it was, boyfriend, girlfriend, and
lover.
And lover. In this situation, it was a girl, and the girl who was part of the couple kept calling the other girl a damn $2 whore, like she a damn $2 whore all the time.
All the time.
So I fed this line to my friend, and he got up, and he. I can't remember the exact way that he put it. I wish that I could because it would have much better delivery. But he essentially said to the dude who lost his tooth that tonight he needs to go home, put that tooth under his pillow, so in the morning he can buy that $2 whore.
Oh, wow.
And it was hilarious, and everybody went crazy, and it was so much fun.
So this was the line that you fed your friend?
Yeah, this is the line that I fed him.
But you did ask a question, too.
Partially, yeah. Partially because I said something else before that wasn't nearly as good before that came to me. And partially just because I knew he'd deliver it so well, and he did. It was so good. I wish I could find it. To be honest, I watched it once, like when it first aired, because we knew when it was coming out. And I've never seen it again since. And it's sad, because like I'd love to find it, but I don't even know how to locate it.
If anyone is listening and has a way to find this episode, please do.
Make it happen.
I need to find. Did you say, my name is Adam from Chicago?
I have no fucking idea.
You said something. You said something lame.
It was 11 years ago. I really don't even know how they frame those questions.
Find this fucking episode.
You and me both. Please, somebody out there find it. Twitter,
that right there was a share that we did not expect. And that was a good share. I don't really know if I want to follow up that share.
Being organic.
Man, that might be the share. I might have to stop right there. I don't know if I can top that share. I don't know if I can top it. I forgot. I did want to bring up the, I guess, it happened like a week and a half ago. Remember I talked about the old content stealing thing in fantasy football? The little thing that popped up with Matthew Berry and ESPN and Michael Fabiano and NFL. Yeah, so I did want to speak on that, and I was going to do it last week with you, and then we did, like I said, we didn't get to do the episode. I still feel like I want to talk about it though. So maybe let's just close out with this then. With that situation, for anyone who doesn't know, the names don't even matter. It doesn't even fucking matter who it was. But there was a situation where one person felt like another person took their idea or their I don't know if you want to say it, copied them. I don't think stole is the right word.
Yeah, he was accusing them of stealing their IP, their intellectual property, which is, it's an interesting conversation because of its parallels to comedy, in my opinion, because there is a lot of talk in the comedy community about joke stealing, and it was something that was completely okay a couple decades ago, and then has gotten to the point now where joke stealers get called out. Like, they regularly get called out. The problem is jokes are direct intellectual property. Opinions on players who play a game that everyone can judge is not intellectual property. Like, I get the idea of trying to say that your formatting is intellectual property, but even that's a super huge reach. Like, I don't know. To me, I don't really know how best to put this, but to me it really just feels like a sad old man attempting to hold on to his grip of something that he believes defines him. That's what it comes across to as me. Without saying the exact players in the situation, this is the second time it's happened with this individual. And it, to me, just feels like an old man who feels like he created something and he doesn't want anyone taking that away from him. So he clings on to any idea he comes up with so hard because that's how he identifies himself.
Right.
And that's,
yeah, I guess
that to me is where it's at.
Right. I guess with content creation period, right? I mean, with there being so many platforms now, right? Because once upon a time, you couldn't just be a player in anything you wanted to. You couldn't just have an opinion in anything you wanted to because you couldn't share it with anybody except like your friends or your family or whatever. Now we live in a time where people literally create content 24/7, whether it's podcasts, whether it's articles, whether it's video in some way, YouTube or whatever you're doing, whether, like you said, comedy, no matter what it is. And in fantasy football even, there's content being created 24/7, right? And I feel like in 2018, you're hard-pressed to find an original idea or original opinion because of that 24/7 thing, right? Because while you're sleeping, someone else is up, and while you're up, someone else is sleeping, and everyone's constantly creating content. And so even if you're first in line sometimes, I feel like, with a thought, you're really not, because in history, it's been expressed somehow, some way, right? You're just kind of... I don't say you're morphing it, but like you're just kind of changing it, or you're coming at it from a different angle or with a different name involved, or however you're doing it. It's already been expressed at some point or another. You're not really creating something new, right? Like, even, if someone says you're stealing their rant or their show, like, you're not the one who created a rant though. So like, you're not the first person to do it. So it means clearly you were inspired by something, right? To make you do that in the first place. So it's like, in this time, I just feel like it's weird to make that complaint, unless, like you said, it's something you made up, like a joke, which even comedians will tell you, like, two guys had similar jokes, and you're like, well, it's like the same joke, but literally they didn't steal it from each other. It's just they both had the same idea, right? So it's like, I guess I just want to say that rather than complain or get upset, which calling out stuff, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's cool, whatever, it's entertaining, but for me, I feel like people are always going to do similar content than you, right? And some people, like the people that we're talking about, have bigger platforms, have bigger voices. And so obviously for them, they're kind of in that same space where I guess they both hear each other and see each other. But there's people who are lower than them that probably steal their stuff or do similar stuff too. They're not being called out, of course, because you don't hear them like they hear each other. But I just feel like, just be better. If you constantly improve your game and evolve your game and just try to be better than the next person, there's nothing to worry about, right? Like, that's what it is in comedy. That's what it is in everything, right? Like, ultimately, the industry will filter you out. Don't you agree?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, I think the parallels with comedy really, really resonate, because there's one big factor that I think is being left out in this, which is that none of the people who are being accused of stealing content have shown a pattern for stealing content. It's this one-time thing that now they're being called out on, which I guess the idea of calling them out is a preemptive strike against them ever doing it again. But, like, if you parallel that to comedy, when you've had comedians be called out, it took forever for guys like Carlos Mencia to lose their popularity or to literally be recognized as, this guy is not creating his own material. He's just taking it from other people and reperforming it.
Right, but now many people know who he is, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean,
He got
now
phased
he has
out.
a platform.
Yeah.
I mean, and eventually he did kind of get found out. But if you go on his websites, he's still performing stand-up comedian. Like he still is successful in some capacity. But ultimately, my point is that it took him performing so much of other people's work before it actually became a public thing.
Right.
So the idea that, someone can have a linear thought on one segment of one TV show that they're doing on one subject is kind of ridiculous. Like, it'd be one thing if it was a constant thing where every time you're producing something, this other person is then reproducing that same idea. But when it happens once, like, to not just think it's linear thought and to move on, or to not just check a box in your mind, hey, maybe check out this person's content to see if they're doing this regularly and picking my ideas regularly. But instead to burst to outrage, just to me, comes from a place of insecurity.
Yeah, I mean, especially when
I think it's the reality.
Especially when you're at the top of the game.
I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think that Matthew Berry is an insecure baby who's holding on to his platform of, I'm the fantasy football guy, when in reality the entire industry has passed him by. Like, the problem with these large media figures in fantasy football is they're not evolving with all these other sites that are extremely analytical or very ingrained in film-based analysis and just do better work, because they don't have all these obligations of the media of putting out content like an ESPN does, and they've worked at refining their game and being better. And essentially, when you don't do that, you have to have all these other gimmicks. And when your gimmicks get copied, then you get hurt because, if somebody has the same gimmick as me, they might get as much attention as me. And no one can get the same attention as me because I came first. And that's all this is. It's just guys trying to hold on to what they were because they lack innovation. So when they can't innovate and become better at their actual craft, which their craft is presenting fantasy football knowledge. That's what you've signed up for. And if you're not going to evolve your craft, all you're going to do is create little gimmicks to try and get attention. So then when your gimmicks get copied, you call out other people for having the same gimmick as you. Like, it's ridiculous. It's not even content. It's not like they're copying your, hard refined statistics or your way of processing, an algorithm that spits out fantasy projections. You're literally talking about a segment on a TV show. Like, I don't even know why we care. I really don't.
Well, I mean, I would say that with his new show, like, he's trying to, he's kind of gone the entertainment route pretty hard, which is his thing too. I think it's like his background as far as, where he's come from. He's, written comedy and stuff like that for TV or whatever. But it's like, and again, I know you're going hard on him for sure. And I'm not necessarily going against him. I mean, I just feel like when it comes to, this kind of stuff, I feel like, especially when you're at the top, I guess, right? When you do hear footsteps of others, right? And there's other talented people that do want your spot, there's always going to be this target on your back, and that shit could probably get stressful. So the thing is, with that title, with all the glory that people have that are at the top, comes that target, right? Comes that heavy is the head that wears the crown, they say, right? So I just feel like, listen, creating original ideas is of course the best. Stealing from others is of course lame as fuck. But it's hard to really know if someone's stealing or if they're just doing the same thing you're doing, because we can only have so many thoughts. But like I said, I feel like the ones who really steal, like you said, like it's their thing. Like those people, I feel like they get caught, they get phased out. People aren't really entertained by them. People still go back to the real source of entertainment or the real source of knowledge. So, again, people call each other out. To me, it's entertaining. It's just funny to me. But every day, like I said, just try to be the best person you could be, man. Keep getting better at your craft. Keep, originating ideas. And that's what really will eat the heart out of these people, man, that are copying you. That there's just so many people riding the coattails of other people or riding the ideas of other people that it is annoying. That is annoying, that fact. But again, for me, it's not aimed at anybody. Adam seems to be aiming it directly at somebody. Saying it's directly at somebody. But again, it's just our opinion. It's just our opinion, Adam. We could be wrong too, man. But again, salute to all the real content creators out there, no matter what space you create in. That shit is... It's respectful, man. I respect it. And the people who are riding the coattails, y'all just get faded out anyway. Get faded out anyway. Adam, we've gone up and down with this thing, man. We've pissed people off. We've talked Jerry Springer. We've talked fantasy football. I'm going to go find those videos. I don't want to wait any longer because I don't want to forget. I'm going to like Google the shit you said, and I'm going to find it. I'm telling you.
Man, I hope somebody finds it.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Clock Dodgers. I want to hear from you guys, so don't be shy. You can also find Adam on Twitter at The Other FF Guy. Be kind, be great, keep dodging.
Keep dodging.